I've already forgot everything. So for me, it's just a matter of sitting and listening to the music and going, oh, okay, I remember how to play that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time on the channel, hit subscribe right now. The phenomenal Kentucky rock band Black Stone Cherry is back with a new album called The Human Condition, which is their heaviest and darkest album yet and might just be their best. To learn all about the album, their influences, and what the band is planning next, I sat down with singer and guitar player Chris Robertson. Alright, well Chris, thank you so much for your time today. First of all, congratulations on the new album. I know it's a weird concept of releasing albums under the current state of the world. Can you tell us a little bit more about, in general, the inspiration about this album? Because after the first few listens, this sounds like a much, let's call it, darker, deeper album in your discography so far.
Yeah, man. It's... for us, coming off of Family Tree, which was a record that we made literally because we wanted to have some fun. Like, we had been so serious for so long. We were like, man, let's just play the rock and roll that we grew up on. Songs about, drinking and having a good time and being a rock and roll band. Like, you listen back to Lynyrd Skynyrd and Foghat and Aerosmith, and they had a lot of those songs, So we were like, man, let's just make a record like that stuff. And that's what we did. And we had an incredible time recording and touring that record. But when it came time to do the next record, we knew that we wanted to bring it heavier again.
There are some very straightforward lyrics on the songs, but I find that every song seems to have multiple layers of meaning. Is it fair to say that there's almost like an underlying feeling of anxiety throughout the album?
I mean, man, I personally am I am manic depressive and I suffer from severe anxiety. So, I guess that's just always underlying in me all the time. And me being one fourth of the band, that's going to come out. But I think that it came from everyone this time a little bit. It wasn't a conscious thing by any means.
Yeah.
But, if you notice that it had to come from just the uncertainty of the times, because while we were in there making that record, all of our shows started getting canceled or postponed, and even shows that were scheduled for the end of the year were already getting postponed. And we were like, okay, this is weird. Here we are making what we feel like is the best record of our career so far. And we're never going to get to go tour off of it, essentially, and the running joke was we're making the best record of our career and nobody's ever going to hear it. People need new music right now and new inspiration. And if we can be that tool or voice for one person, then putting a record out when you can't go play the music is just fine.
Call the doctor, not once before, but the world got dark 'cause we all got cold.
One of those heavier songs on the album, not just from a lyric perspective, also from a lyric perspective, but also pure from the music, is Push Down and Turn. And you just, you shared with us that, you've been struggling yourself with manic depression. That definitely comes out in that song.
That song's 100% introspective, man. I mean, it's essentially, a day in the life of me, or a week or a month or whatever. It's one of my favorite lyrics in the whole song is "Hold on to being scared. It's how you know you're still there." And for me, that every now and then, when you're really scared is when you feel the most alive.
Hold on to, it's how you know you have to crawl, just keep moving on.
For me, there's such an incredibly harsh stigma around mental health, and especially men in mental health. It's you got to be the tough guy. You can't fall down, you can't cry, you can't do these things. And dude, I'm a grown man. I'm 35 years old, and I do all those things. And you know, I feel like I'm a better man for it because I'm actually able to understand that I have a problem and I can deal with that, you know, in whatever way I need to. The most rewarding experience of my life has been being open and honest about my struggles, the things that I deal with, because I have received messages and I've had people tell me in person and people wait for me outside of venues, you know, just to tell me that me being open allowed them to, you know, finally admit that they had something going on and that they needed help, whether that was just, you know, talking to someone or they had to, you know, get a prescription or whatever they did, man, you know, but just to know that it didn't fall on deaf ears, you know, because, dude, I've caught a lot of hate and a lot of flack for things I've said about the way I feel, you know, and, but to me, it doesn't matter because every one of those, you know, those hated messages or whatever, you know, there's one of those that's like, man, you truly helped me. Thank you so much. And to me, that is the most amazing thing ever.
The things my father said would make me a better man.
To go back in history a little bit, a song that I know that was also important for you well before I think that you were allowing yourself to be more open in this way was The Things My Father Said. From this was what, 2008, I guess, or something.
Yeah, that was Folklore and Superstition.
Yeah,
and that one, man, that song came from we had a dear friend of ours that lost his dad while we were all very young, just fresh out of high school. You know, my dad's still around, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But that song, you know, came from watching that, you know, seeing how much pain and hurt, you know, that your friend goes through when they lose their dad, you know, or, you know, and my uncle had passed away very suddenly, and that was a huge influence on that as well. For me, man, it was like an entire, you know, kind of section of my life. It wasn't just a year and a half that I was in this most awful shape. It felt like it was an eternity. And that when you go through something like that, you know, that place has a mark that on you that will never leave. You know, for me anyways, I'll always have certain struggles and certain things that I have to deal with. But being open and honest about it, man, truly for me is therapeutic because at that point I'm not hiding anything. You know, if I say, hey, look, I deal with this and, you know, I'm okay with what I have to do, that is very therapeutic for me to be able to say that and just hear myself say it, because at that point, you know, the 10-ton weights on my chest come off and I can breathe again.
Personal note, I wanted to share with you. Every year for Father's Day, I still make a mixtape and I call it The Things My Father Said. Volume 1, awesome. 2, whatever. So it's something that for me is also a very important song. I actually got to know you guys when you played the Graspop Metal Festival for the first time. I think that was 2008. I know you guys played it a couple more times, 2009, 2015 as well, for sure. A couple more times. Now, obviously, there's no touring going on. But in touring life, just to kind of do a bit of a U-turn here, I know that Ben in the band sometimes annoys the hell out of everybody else by collecting very large Star Wars artifacts he finds on the road. And I do believe that you know, John Fred has the same passion with antiques, and and if I'm not mistaken, John, you know, brings a lot of photography equipment along, whether or not he will actually use it. Do you have a quirk like that as well that goes on you with touring?
I do, man. Like I got a one spot in the back lounge that I always sit every morning, and I'm just kind of like an old man in a coffee shop. I have my spot. I sit there. Don't take my spot. You know what I mean? But the problem is in my spot is also my camera, because I picked up photography a year or so ago. I have my camera, I have my computer, but then I also have a guitar sitting there as well. So I'm like, I clutter the bus as bad as anybody, man. But I also try to like throw all my shit in my bunk sometimes. That way, it's not in everybody's way.
When you were mentioning earlier that when you were young and you were like inspired by all these bands like Skynyrd and Aerosmith, I saw recently a video recording on Dutch television with a 2007 version of Chris Robertson talking about your first rehearsal house that was filled with posters, and you were talking about your favorite poster being the Jimi Hendrix poster. Axis of Bold Love, I think that was. Axis of Bold of Love,
yeah,
sorry.
Man.
With.
Oh, dude, I've got Jimmy tattooed on me.
There you go. I was about to say. And also some Bob Marley lyrics, right?
Yes, sir. Bob Marley, man, for me, some of my biggest influences are the ones people wouldn't immediately think. Obviously, when you hear our band, you think all the classic rock bands. Like, yes, they love those bands. But for me, man, like Bob Marley, Freddie King, Wilson Pickett, Jimi Hendrix, and Nirvana and Alice in Chains are right up there with all the classic rock bands.
Yeah.
Every time I plug in an amp, I end up playing an Alice in Chains riff just because, like, those are the sounds I grew up wanting to emulate and stuff, man, but then at the same time, if I plug into a Fender amp, I start playing Freddie King stuff. So it's weird, man. Like, I have a very eclectic taste in music, but, my biggest influences, if I had to pick three, I would probably say Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, and Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Talking about plugging in and playing in different styles, recording this album was very different, if I understand correctly, than everything you did before. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. So, like, typically when we recorded a record, we would do scratch guitars, but, or we would end up keeping, part of the guitars. Like, maybe I did a guitar solo or something that I wanted to keep, or maybe, I did, a cool lick, or Ben did a cool part, or whatever. We would keep that and then build around it. But we all played live together. So we would play while John Fred was tracking the drums. But this time we decided to put down like really, really good scratch tracks, right? So we laid down a guitar, and then Ben would lay down a guitar, or vice versa. And then we would do the bass and a scratch vocal, and then John Fred would go play to that. And what it allowed every single guy to focus on every single instrument in the band. And that was something for us that we always thought, it's going to sound too separated. It's not going to sound cohesive enough. But realistically, we were able to get it to sound even better this way because everyone was showing so much focus to every single part.
Is that also helping preparing for playing live, where you need to have that clarity?
I've already forgot everything. So for me, it's just a matter of sitting and listening to the music and going, oh, okay, I remember how to play that. But we haven't even got to rehearse. So, like, we did the Live from the Sky stream, and we rehearsed about an hour the day before, played over the new songs, and that was it. We didn't play any old songs. We were like, we know those.
Yeah.
And what you saw on that stream was essentially us playing all those new songs for the second time and all the stuff for the first time in 8 months. So it was amazing, man. But it was a lot of fun. But I think because the thing that's great about it is everybody knows everybody's parts this way.
Yeah, exactly.
We all had to focus so much that we all know all the parts.
We fly even higher and do it again.
Everything so easily, and maybe even more so in today, the States, than anywhere else in the world. But everything easily gets politicized. In the at the end of your the video, "In Love with the Pain,"
But tomorrow looks as bright as your eyes. I'm in love with the pain, addicted to your face.
When the young guy is standing at the platform and walks away as the train went away, in the background you see the alert sign of at the train station saying, like, everybody please wear your mask for your safety and what have you. I assume that those things in editing don't stay in by accident, so I applaud that you guys are bringing that message.
Man, dude, look, my dad is a cancer patient, and he has to take chemo and radiation.
Yeah.
Because of that and the medications he's on, he has a weakened immune system.
Yeah.
it blows my mind that people have such a problem with wearing a mask. It's not infringing upon anybody's rights. Dude, I'm as American as it gets. You know what I mean? I am proud of where I'm from. But I also know that if my best interest is wearing a mask because the local government asked me to do so, to try to not spread anything potentially to people. Dude, my grandma's 83 years old. You know, she's seen better days. My dad is a very sick man, and I have zero problem putting a mask on my face when I go into a store to pick up something I need. Because 9 times out of 10, I go to buy a pack of cigarettes. That is not essential. I'm making a trip for something I desire, not something that I have to have for survival. If I can't put a mask on for that, I don't need a cigarette. Yeah. Sorry. That's my personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own, but that is not.
It's a shame to see that bands like yourself or people that have a platform are so easily attacked for these things these days.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Literally, you can say, "Oh man, you know, I like this thing," and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. That guy that was involved with that 20 years ago said something 30 years ago, and now you're an awful person." I'm like,
yeah,
the hell does that have to do with anything? You know, like. It just blows my mind how quick people are to get offended and judgmental. You know, like, I got no time for that, man. I literally had a nervous breakdown, a full-blown nervous breakdown in my 20s. And after that, it took me a long time to be able to talk to people and fully trust people and do a lot of things. But 3 or 4 years ago, man, I just found my peace in life, you know, and I'm like, I was looking up the stars one evening. This is a true story. I was literally outside here where I live, and I'm very fortunate to live in a rural area where I can look up and I can see the stars every night. And I was looking up, and I was like, man, every star could contain a galaxy. You know, just thinking about space and the vast unknown. And then in that moment, I just thought to myself, the opinion I have is so small in the world that why do I care if someone gets offended by my opinion, or why should I let someone else's opinion offend me? Because at the end of the day, it's that person's deal, man, and their thing to figure out on their own, you know? So I literally looked back and I was like, we're all literally just these tiny pebbles of sand, you know, on this planet, let alone in the galaxy, let alone in all of space, right?
Yeah.
So I just stepped back and I was like, what's really important? And it's people, man. It's investing in people and investing in the right kind of people that also invest back. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your heart and your passion and your time, those kind of things. You invest those things into people, and it's the greatest currency on earth, because you know, money can't buy that. You cannot buy that.
I got a ring in my head, my bones are shaking. I got something to be said, I can feel it in my chest.
You said, I'm proud where I'm from. You are from Kentucky. One of the things that Kentucky is probably most known for is the small fact that there are currently more barrels of bourbon and whiskey aging in Kentucky than there are people in Kentucky. I know that you guys, was it 10 years ago maybe, for when you guys released Blame on the Boom Boom, you guys did like a partnership with a bourbon at that time, if I'm not mistaken. As far as I know, but I could be wrong, you guys have never like really partnered with a distillery or with a brewery to release a Blackstone Cherry alcohol or beer like so many bands are doing right now. Is that something that, you know, the rock and roll sons of Kentucky should be doing?
Man, you know, we've had a few different ideas of a drink over the years, and different kinds of drink too, you know, but it's just something that we've never been able to quite figure out exactly what we want to do. Because if we do something like that, we want to do it right. You know what I mean? And we want we want to do something, you know, super high quality and that people are going to really, you know, enjoy.
Yeah, you don't want to slap your label on a Budweiser.
No. You know what Germans say about American beer, don't you?
As a Belgian, I would probably swap the Belgian for that because we like our beers too. But I have a good feeling what they would say. Does it involve a canoe?
Sir. Yes, sir. We'll keep it at that.
You got a ringing, I got a ringing in my head. My bones are shaking. I got something in between. I can feel it in my chest.
There are some COVID-safe shows coming up. I assume that you guys might record some of that or at least document some of that as well. What should we expect? Man. What should the fans look forward to for the next few weeks and months?
You know, man, if you get to make it out to a show, we're obviously going to be playing some new music. But, you know, man, just expect more content around the album. I mean, that's essentially, it's a very weird time for bands because, yes, we can put out music and we can put out content, but the content is like everybody's content's getting more creative, and they're trying to figure out, I mean, let's be real. We're all trying to figure out ways to be the band that pops up in your timeline the most.
Yes.
You know, because we don't want you to forget about us because, you know, you're not hearing about the bands come to town anymore. You're not hearing about, oh, well, this band's going on tour with that band or whatever. You know, it's just, oh, that band put out a song. Cool.
No.
Probably never get to hear it live. You know, that's the general feeling, but, you know, we're just trying to stay in the eye, man. You know, trying to make sure people don't forget about us, and it's really all you can do in a situation like the world's been put in this year.
Yeah.
So, with that said, thank you sincerely for having me on and taking the time to, you know, help people know more about Black Stone Cherry. I sincerely appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. I hope that by now you're not frozen from the waist down in this freezing garage that you're in right now.
No, I got my heater working, man. I'm good.
Perfect.
You are awesome for watching that video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.